Okay, now there's audio, and I will do the dance again. Let me go back to the Twitter. Sound. Okay. Silly because I have Soundflower, so I can like record other things. But for some reason, my computer thinks that's the default, and so whenever I try to like do anything, it's like, oh, clearly you want to be recording the sound and not what you're actually saying into the microphone, which I think is rude. Okay, so for real this time. I'm using a Mind Over Munch recipe that is unique because it uses 1-to-1 flour instead of all-purpose flour, and the difference between those is the xanthan gum. 1-to-1 has xanthan gum and all-purpose doesn't. And before I took a break to eat food, I did a bunch of prep, and I mixed all the dry ingredients, which is 1-to-1 flour, baking powder, and salt. And then for the wet ingredients, we have separated 3 eggs, whites, which is gross, and I hate doing it. And then oat milk and oil. And it calls for coconut oil. I don't have coconut oil, so I'm just going to use vegetable oil. And the yolks and the whites are separate to give it texture. So I'm now at the stage where I'm going to be integrating the dry stuff and the wet stuff, which means I have to mix all of these yolks. I'm going to do this away from the microphone because it sounds terrible. But I'm supposed to whisk them until they're fluffy. So let's see if we can get fluffy yolks with a fork, because I don't feel like washing the one whisk that I have. It's not fluffy yet. The other thing about this recipe is it calls for the eggs to be room temperature, so they were cold before, so I just let them sit out for like a half hour in their separated states. So become fluffy. I don't think it's been like over a decade since I've separated eggs. Like I don't enjoy it. I'm now standing on my tiptoes, so you can see more than like half of me. it's still thick. The whites are gonna be really irritating because those have to be stiff peaks, and I don't think I'm gonna get there. I think I'm just gonna make it so it seems frothy and call it okay. I don't know. All this has to do is beat the terribleness that was the attempt I made 6 months ago, where I rage quit from making gluten-free bread because it doesn't work the way bread is supposed to work. And it's offensive to me because I spent my entire childhood winning bread competitions, and this doesn't do the shit that it's supposed to do. You have to adjust for it. And the reason that we're fluffing, it's starting to get a little bit fluffy. It's hard to tell. But the reason that we're fluffing the eggs so much is because this is not a yeast bread. You can't, well, you can, but it sucks. You're not supposed to use the 1-to-1 flour with yeasted breads because of something with the xanthan gum. And so instead, I look for a non-yeast recipe, and you mitigate for the lack of lift by using baking powder or baking soda or both and flipping the eggs really hard. These are things I've learned in the 8 months that I've had to not eat gluten. It looks like it's getting frothy and foamy. It looks like really fucked up latte top. What am I listening to? Fluffy. I feel like you can't really see it because my webcam is shitty, but I feel like it looks friendly. It looks decently fluffy. It's I'm gonna call that okay. Alright, so then now I have to mix in 1.5 cup of milk and the 6 tablespoons of oil into the egg yolk mixture. So I think I'm going to do myself a favor. Nope, the mixing cup is out. Well, I can wash it. This is the problem with making dinner and then immediately also making bread. To wash your hands all the time. Please take a moment and join me. Good enough for 1.25 cups of milk. I just have Pacific oat milk. It calls for whichever kind of non-dairy milk you want. You could even probably put dairy milk in it, but Oh no! Alright, so it's gonna be like 1 cup of oat milk and a 1/4 cup of almond milk, because that's what I've got. It's fine. This is fine. Like, how different are they really? It'll add an interesting flavor. Or it'll be terrible and I'll rage quit. It's fine either way. And 6 tablespoons of oil. So I'm gonna put all of these things in the 2-cup measuring cup and then add the fluffy eggs. I'll do it that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to actually put the oil and the milk together a little bit first. I don't have to, but it just seems like why not at this point. And now fluffy egg yolks, mostly fluffy. This looks really gross. Don't eat this by itself. I'm just mixing this until it's like integrated and it's not like milk, oil, and egg floating on top of each other. All right, so my computer back to facing not the sink. All right, so now we are on the stage of mixing the wet and the dry, and I hate it when these have the things where it's like, then you put the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. And it's like, you obviously use the biggest bowl for the fact that you have like 2.5 cups of flour. And like, you're not, no. So anyway, I'm going to make a well for shits and giggles. And then just like slowly kind of pour some liquid in and then stir it around and then add the rest just so I don't like spray flour all over me, because that is usually my tendency. There you go. And this is like, it's kind of wet right now. And it's not, I don't think it's going to get to the point where this is like a dough we need to knead. It's just so we need to mix it well and then set it aside, because then we have to do more egg flopping. So this is all integrated. There's no more like pockets of flour. And it just looks like a cookie dough, kind of. Like, I would put chocolate chips in it and be like, yeah, this is totally a cookie dough. It doesn't smell bad, which I feel like is an improvement from my last attempt at this, where it was like some gluten-free flour, some apple cider vinegar, and baking soda, and it tasted terrible. Don't make that mistake. I understood what it was doing with the like vinegar and the baking soda, like it was trying to do the fluffy kind of like soda bread, but it was bad. It was terrible. This is what you get when you're just like, oh, someone who's like really into strange health food stuff said this tastes great. I don't know, that it was not the bread that I wanted. Now we are at whipping the egg whites to medium peaks, and I actually kind of did fuck up this stage because when I was doing the separating, a little bit of yolk got in, and I didn't care to fish it out. So it's gonna be like 98% egg white with like a little bit of egg yolk for flavor. But now I get to make egg whites into stiff peaks with a fork. I actually could have a hand mixer, but it doesn't have like the kind of whisk that I need for this. So it's like, I don't know. The whole point of making bread is doing it by hand and taking out all of the angst and the fact that you have to like mix and pound shit for a while. I'm at like kind of a weird glossy pool, which is better than it was before. It's like a weird oily bubble bath. Yeah. And I did not bother to preheat the pan or pre-grease the pan because I was watching anime, so. Yeah, basically, yeah, I get a recipe and I'm like, I'll do most of it, fine. Yeah. Okay, look, I'm getting like bubbles and frothy now, so that's progress. I think I might be able to get to stiff peaks with a fork. Who knows? 5 more minutes of whisking and we'll find out. The only thing about this recipe, though, is like if it turns out good, that's awesome. But the fact that I have to like split the eggs, it's weird because there's like this one little bit of egg membrane that doesn't want to like disconnect itself. I'm now at full bubble bath, so soon we'll get into the like fluffiest bubble bath, and that'll be good. Which is about cookie dough thick, so we'll see how that goes. I will probably dirty a spatula instead of using a fork. My hand cramp. Okay. But we're getting there. We're getting some fluffiness. There's some. It looks like a really good bubble bath. So there's still a lot of like stuff that isn't fluffy, but we're getting there. It's taking out all of my anger on these eggs right now. This is what happens when you can't leave your apartment except to like go on a walk or to the grocery store. It's not even like, it's not that much different from what I usually do. Like, I'm pretty much, like, I stay at home most of the time, and I hang out with friends, like, I don't know, once a week or so. But, like, not having the option is the part that really gets to me. Like, sure, I don't usually go to bars or go out or like have a whole ton of social stuff, but I like having the option to do it. I don't like not having the option. I was gonna start going like dancing, but then it was like, no, everyone has to stay home, which is good. We should all be doing this. This is why this is happening. But it's still like, it's a lot. It's a lot sometimes. And it's not like I'm not lonely because I have internet friends and all my friends know how to use the internet and I've been in touch with everyone and it's been like, weirdly, I've been more connected since this kind of happened than before because this is just like a whole new cultural trauma that we're all experiencing. But the stir crazy. The stir crazy is a thing. And I was having a really hard time today after I finished up working. And so I went on a walk and I just sat on like a bench at Lake Merritt for 20 minutes and I felt much better. So if you're going stir crazy, go take a walk and like breathe fresh air and then come back. Well, I have, it's much fluffier. It's still not like, I wouldn't call this stiff peaks yet, but I feel like we're getting close. We're getting to like, there's a bit of a drag. It's almost like whipped cream. I have like big bubbles, so I feel like that's improvement. I'm not sure like when the last time I tried to get to stiff peaks and egg whites was. I usually tend to like avoid recipes that have this requirement because it's just so much. But this was also the easiest, simplest recipe that existed because I have everything I need to make the America's Test Kitchen flour recipe. The thing that I don't have is the container for 9.5 cups of flour. So I was gonna try to do one of the ATK bread recipes, but I need a container first because one loaf of bread does not take. Yes, a whisk would speed this up, but I don't have one that is the right like size for this to make the bread. When I feel like making bread. When I don't feel like making bread, I really wish I had a bread maker, and they need to like come out with cheap bread makers that have gluten-free bread already. Because again, with the like way that gluten works and gluten-free bread does not work is like the structure is different, so they have to be able to account for the alternate process. Are we almost? We are getting close. It's like, oh, yay! That kind of does a thing. That stays. I feel like I should Google what a stiff peak is. But yeah, it's like close. I think some of this also is like, I learned how to do this when I was little, and it was like through 4-H, and it's like, well, you have to learn how they did it like back before there were all of these kitchen gadgets that we could use. So I still have a lot of that sort of ingrained, like, well, if you're using like a tool, okay, I think we have arrived. I'm calling that good. I'm gonna say that's fine. I'm gonna say we can now fold. So I'm gonna try this. Let's see if it works better than using a fork. Oh yeah. Yeah, now that I've like kind of let these sit, well, there's like a tiny little underlayer of white that is still like being resistant. It's going to assimilate. Resistance is futile. It's going to be fluffy bread. At least as close as we can get with fork. Okay, that seems better. All right. Now we get to try to fold in these egg whites. So I'm just gonna pour them in, and wow, that it's unique. All right, so I'm just gonna like slowly kind of try to work it in, and there's a little bit of this like egg whites that still resisted a little bit, but I'm mushing that, so it's fine. And now our dough is like looking much wetter again, which makes sense, but it doesn't look like bread dough should look. It looks wrong and it looks soggy. But that's the reality of gluten-free bread making, I guess. I'm just kind of trying to like integrate it, and this is just, I don't know. Gently fold the whipped eggs into batter, but don't overmix. Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that all of the dough has made contact with the fluffy eggs. And then I guess we'll leave it so it's getting there. And this is some like little bits of sticky that have not met some egg whites. So that's the thing, like none of this does not scream bread dough to me. It screams weird goo that wants to be bread, which I guess is the truth about gluten-free bread. Okay, now we're like getting to more of like a very wet dough texture. Yeah, so if I were making like a normal glutinous bread, I would say that like where I'm at right now needs more flour. But since this is gluten-free bread, basically every flour-based pastry has to be very soggy. So I think we have arrived. This seems like it doesn't seem correct, but it seems like what it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna set this aside and let it sit in its eggness. Be a responsible adult and throw all the rest of this into the sink. And I guess now I should preheat the stove first. You are not red pan. Oh no. Yep. Bread pan. And I think I want this to be like a kind of savory bread. So I'm going to coat the bottom in this really cool oil that I have. Because I cannot have garlic or onion. I can have garlic and onion infused oil, which gets all of the like nice flavors of the garlic, but without any of the bad stuff that makes my guts angry. So I'm gonna just like coat the pan in garlic, and then the bread will have like a kind of garlicky taste to it, at least on the outsides, which will just be like a kind of nice savory thing. I might throw rosemary on top. I like putting rosemary on top of bread. And I'm like, if the bread sucks, it's going to suck regardless of whether or not I have rosemary on it. So I might as well put rosemary on it because then it'll at least taste interesting. So I'm going to grab rosemary. I'm not fancy sprigs of dried rosemary. And 350. I don't think it's going to fit my toaster. Put it in the actual oven, which if you haven't seen my oven, it's literally like the first oven that was invented and mass produced. I'm pretty sure it came with the building in 1910 or whatever year it was, 1910, 1912. One of my neighbors last year accidentally had an oven explosion because this is all gas and it's super cool that you can't, like tell if it's on because it's gas. And so you have to like go through this multi-step process and light it with fire. And like it's great because if the power goes out, it doesn't matter. But it sucks because it's gas and it can explode. But no explosions today. The other downside of this oven is that it takes literally at least 2, if not 3 times as long to cook anything at all. So this is supposed to cook for 45 minutes. I'm going to check back in like an hour and a half, I'm not gonna have the live stream up this whole time. I'll just like take pictures of the bread when it's done. But here is now our dough that's very floppy, and it seems like for gluten-free dough, it seems like it's what it should be. It's kind of gross, uh, but we'll see. I'm just gonna like flop. I really do miss kneading, and that's not really something that you need in a lot of gluten-free breads, which kind of sucks because like the cathartic part of making bread is that you get to kind of beat the shit out of it. And you have to make the gluten all nice and happy. And you don't really have that with this, but whatever. There's also no rise time because there's no yeast. So it's all the rising that we're gonna get if we get any, and if I didn't fuck up the eggs, is gonna come from the eggs and the baking powder. And I'm just gonna put this in the oven for an hour and a half and see what happens. And I'll take pictures and I'll post the recipe in the description later. So here it is in the pan. And yeah, that's gluten-free baking. Bye.